Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Masonic Shelf. My name is Brad Kohanke.
And my name is Chris Williams. And tonight we have something just a little bit different for you. Instead of reviewing a book, we have our producer, Jason Reichenberg, who has a special program he wants to present tonight. Jason?
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. We're going to do something a little different this evening. Here in South Texas, we have four DeMolays that were very active in their DeMolay chapters and then went right into Masonry. And so tonight we actually have three of those fathers on with their DeMolay sons, myself being one of them. And so we wanted to talk to them about their experience in DeMolay and then going right into Masonry. We envision this as a long-term project. In 5 years, we actually follow up with the same group of men to find out how their journey is going in Masonry. You know, this is a unique opportunity to especially talk to some young Master Masons and find out maybe over the long term how their experience is going. We're calling this a special episode of the Masonic Shelf, and we hope that you enjoy it.
The opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not represent the views of any Grand Lodge nor a pendant body of Freemasonry.
All right, so for this first segment, we actually brought on the dads. We're going to talk with them first, and then we're going to bring on our DeMolays after that. And so we want to start off with an introduction from each of them. Brother Triggs, if you'll get us started, introduce yourself.
Hi, Brother Reichenberg. My name is Jason Triggs. I've been a Master Mason for about 15 years. During that time, I've been a past master of Texas Lodge number 8 and Bluebonnet Lodge number 1219. I've past potentate of Alciphar Shrine. Served the Grand Lodge of Texas as District Deputy Grand Master in 2021. And currently, I'm the chapter dad of the San Antonio DeMolay chapter here in San Antonio for the past 6 years now.
All right, Brother Hugh Muller.
I am Brother Hugh Muller. I am from Guadalupe Lodge 109 and Kingsbury Lodge 887. Been a Mason now for roughly 14 years. I'd have to go back and look. It's not a number thing for me. Been a past master at Guadalupe Lodge 109, past master at Kingsbury Lodge 887. Also in several Eastern Stars because my wife, and a great organization. Also part of the Rainbow Girls. The state Rainbow Dad currently for the International Order of Rainbow for Girls for the state of Texas. I was District Deputy Grand Master back in 2020. And the current chairman for Stephen F. Austin chapter, which we just moved out to Kingsbury Lodge in Kingsbury, Texas, and are on the move growing up. So it's a good change that we had, and it seems to be working out.
And I'm actually, I am the producer of the Masonic Shelf. I also happen to be one of the DeMolay dads. My name, obviously, is Jason Reichenberg. I am a past master of Victory Lodge. I am also past master of Kadosh for the San Antonio Consistory, past monarch of Omala Grotto, past chief of the Knights of St. Andrew, past president of Tejas High 12, past a few other things in the York Rite. I do currently serve as the district deputy grand master for the council. And I was actually a DeMolay dad as well, not quite as involved as Brother Triggs and Brother Hugh Muller were, but I am actually still a DeMolay dad as well with San Antonio chapter. So one of the first questions that I have, and I'll go ahead and actually answer my own question is why got my son Victor involved in DeMolay. I he was heavily involved in school at in marching band. So he was pretty busy and did not really have a lot of other organizations that he had time to be a part of in middle school and high school. And so to have an opportunity to be involved in an extracurricular club outside of school with DeMolay just seemed to be just seemed to be a natural fit. So how about you guys?
Yeah, for us, it was more of like a family tradition. Of course, married into a heavy Masonic family. My father-in-law, he was a third generation Mason. Of course, that sparked my interest in it, and that's why I joined the fraternity. And of course, joining the fraternity and the kids being a young age, and they've always gone to like the shrine parades and stuff like that. And so when they were able to finally become of age, getting them involved in the philanthropy and the fraternity, they've always had an interest in it. It's just kind of like in our blood, kind of is to be a part of the Masonic family, and that's kind of how all we got involved in everything.
Well, for us, Tyler had been following around with his grandma and his aunt. They were very, very heavy into Rainbow. And probably before he was supposed to be introduced to any of that at a young age of probably 8 or 9, he was already going to government day, sitting up in the top and watching all that and stuff like that. So once he turned 12, he was definitely ready to actually become a DeMolay. I had recently became a Master Mason at that point. He wasn't with Stephen F. Austin chapter at the time. He was part of Albert Pike chapter, meeting downtown San Antonio, and they do meet every Monday. And so it was my job that I was supposed to get him there every Monday. And so with that being said, that's how I kind of got involved as well. But his was more of a kind of the same as Jason. It's kind of a tradition for him to kind of go into it, but it was his own desire that he decided to go, because it takes a lot to do it. So.
Well, to be honest, I really didn't have any. Honestly, I had never heard of DeMolay until probably a couple years after I joined. I've only been a Master Mason for about 8 years now. I think probably about a year after I was raised, I'd heard about it. Well, okay. That's actually not entirely true. I do have one kind of side story. Is Victor had been in DeMolay for about a year, and my parents had come out to visit. And so, for those that don't know, family members are allowed to attend DeMolay meetings if their sons are a part of it. I think you guys still do like a short little oath or something that says that you won't reveal what's happening in the meeting. You're supposed to keep quiet. So I asked my dad. Victor had a meeting one of the nights, and I said, well, Dad, you want to go to this DeMolay meeting? And of course, I mean, that's his grandson, so of course he said yes. So no kidding, we're on 1604. I mean, we're about 10 minutes away from Al-Safar. And all of a sudden he goes, yeah, when I was in DeMolay, the only thing I remember us doing was just getting together and playing pool. I said, I don't even think we did the ritual or anything like that. I was like, you were in DeMolay? He's like, well, yeah. I mean, it was just for a short time. It was just for a couple of years. But keep in mind, Victor had already been in DeMolay for a year, and then all of a sudden now my dad is saying, "Oh yeah, I was in DeMolay." And as it turned out, there was actually an initiation that night, and then about halfway through, he was like, "Oh yeah, we did Yeah, now I'm starting to remember some of the rituals and stuff like that. So I say it's not a family tradition, but apparently at some point it was, but at any rate. So, um, all right, Brad and Chris, do you have any questions you want to?
Well, I was just going to ask if any of the three of you had actually been DeMolays. I mean, I know that with Jason, he wasn't, but what about the other two?
No, I wasn't. I didn't join Masonry until I was in, geez, my late my late 20s. Is when I finally decided to pop the question and get the opportunity to join. So as a young man, just kind of like what Brother Reichenberg was saying about Victor. Yeah, I was in the marching band, but back there, graduating in the '90s, there was so much other things to do socially that you didn't think about that kind of thing. But that's just kind of when it started for me, when I was just in my late 20s. Never got into it, but now that I'm in it, I wish I would have gotten into it a lot sooner.
Mike?
So I just looked it up. That's why I was looking down. Apparently 13 years ago is when I became a Master Mason. 12.99 as of today. So before that, I didn't know anything about Masonry. I didn't know anything about DeMolay, Rainbow, Eastern Star, anything. Come to find out, like I didn't even know my wife was actually in Eastern Star when we got married. It was great time, but one of my buddies asked me if I wanted to be a Mason, and I did. And then she's like, "Well, I'm an Eastern Star." I said, "Well, why haven't you been going?" And she got back into it. There was a big old story with that, but so she's actually gotten more involved with her side of it as well. And of course, I have a daughter now, so she's in Rainbow. But as far as DeMolay goes, no, I never had the I was homeschooled. I lived a very sheltered life, we'll call it. But but I didn't know anything about Masonry until one of my best friends now, who's a brother Mason, that I was wearing a ring. One of my best friends was giving me from Afghanistan, and he asked if it was a Masonic ring because it kind of had the same shape and style and all that. And I said no. And he says, "You'd make a good Mason." And I said, "Well, what's Masonry?" He says, "Well, I'm glad you asked." I went home and I told my wife, I said, "I'm going to eat dinner at the Masonic Lodge." And she said, "Do what?" And she says, "Well, go find Riley Miller." I said, "I'll do that." But
Oh, Riley. Yeah, we know Riley.
Yeah, Riley Miller. He was the one I was supposed to hunt down that night, and that I did. He was one of the first ones that came and shook my hand.
What a great guy he was.
On top of the one I knew. So no, I didn't have that opportunity. We do have the honorary chapter going on now, the Samuel P. Cochran honorary DeMolay chapter, which is for all Master Masons who did not know that there was DeMolay when they were 12 to 21. I am a part of that as well, and I'm actually I got elected. I wasn't there. I don't know if it was a voluntold or I just go do it. But I am now at Conclave here in July. I will be going as senior counselor. So I've been working my way up the chairs, and they put me in the line pretty quick. So I will be senior counselor of St. L.P. Cochran, the honorary DeMolay chapter, and they help fund the Texas DeMolay Association. So all their fundraising and everything that they do is for Texas DeMolay Association to help out with that. So if anybody wants to be part of that, that's another good one to do. We meet 4 times a year.
Brother Triggs, you got your son involved in DeMolay relatively early, and I know that you said you married into kind of a Masonic family, and so they knew about DeMolay, they knew about Rainbow, they knew about Eastern Star and all the appendant organizations. What was it about DeMolay that attracted you for your son?
Well, my wife, she was part of the Job's Daughters here in town, and she helped. She was one of the charter members of the Bethel that met down in the in the Scottish Rite. And I always thought, I would always go to like the crystal balls and stuff with her, and go to the dances and everything. And I remember the other DeMolay boys, the DeMolay kids that were there also, and I always knew they were very respectful. They were very smart. That's something that I always tried to steer my sons toward, is to be very respectful, very, present yourself in a well manner, and give them kind of like some guidance and give them the tools so they could be more successful in life. So I've always stressed that with both of my sons is when you present yourself, make sure you present yourself in a positive manner. And every time I've seen the DeMolays, whenever they gather together, they're always a good group of young men. It looks like they're always going places. They're very smart, presentable, respectable, and I always wanted my son to be a part of that, because I know that would help me in teaching him, the right difference between rights and wrong growing up, and also have some of the older people that are kind of in his generation as role models to say, hey, it is kind of cool to be part of something like this, and not, just whatever you see on TV and that kind of thing. So that's a big reason why I wanted him to get involved in them.
Yeah, that makes sense to me totally, because when I see these young men and the young ladies in Rainbow as well, when they're called upon to speak in public, for instance,
Yes.
they're very eloquent, they're very articulate, they're very confident, and you don't see that with other kids their age. And I think a lot of it has to do with, having the practice of having to get up and speak in front of a group, and
Sure.
the experience that they get in the chapter and the.
Yeah, my son, for example, Kevin, when we went to his first government day, he was scared to death, and to talk in front of people. But at first government day, he was asked to be part of the Senate. He presented a bill, debated it, and all kinds of stuff. Like he did it for, like he's been doing it for years, and ever since then, he's been asked to speak about DeMolay at different functions, and he actually enjoys it now, and he looks forward to that, for that opportunity to kind of not really show himself up, but also, the organization of how they helped him become what he is now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know it's hard to believe, but Tyler was the exact same way. He actually wouldn't talk to anybody, and he was the shy out in the corner person that went from that to being able to stand up in front of a group of people and talk. And I see it so many times in Rainbow and in DeMolay that, that's the best part of my current position as chairman, is I get to sit there and watch all these young kids come in at 12 years old, and hopefully I get to see them all majority out at the age of 21 for bettering their lives. But the big part is it opens them up, and the best thing that DeMolay has is that there are no age groups. That's one of the things that they don't instill, is that it's 12 to 21. It's not 12 to 14, 14 to 18, 14 to 16, whatever. It's 12 to 21. Your younger 12-year-olds are with the 21-year-olds. And so they're learning off the 21-year-olds, and the 12-year-olds are gaining respect for them, but also learning from them how to stand there and run a chapter and talk and speak and all that. And I'm sure you'll see here in a little bit that once you get Tyler on the ball, he ain't gonna stop. So good luck.
And I was gonna jump in on that for me, what I thought, part of what, besides what you guys have already talked about, but what Mike was referring to was actually how to run a meeting and organize. And I don't know, it's been stunning, having been in so many different either business meetings or Masonic meetings or something like that, is you get somebody up there that just seems to have no idea how a meeting is supposed to run, despite the fact that they may have been in those meetings before. Well, for some reason, once they get to where they are presiding or having to, be in charge, they lose all sorts of bearing. They seem to have no idea what they're doing. And so at least one of the things that I have noticed is that Victor was far more prepared to when he got to college to be able to, if he was put in charge of something, that he has a sense of how things should be organized and, getting groups of people together to do things. And if we need to actually run a meeting and know what some semblance of what Robert's rules of orders are and how to entertain motions and second and vote and all this kind of stuff. And I think that's one of the strengths, I think, for an organization like DeMolay is they actually learn a practical skill that you see a lot of men in their late 40s and 50s and 60s that just never seem to have ever been able to do something like that. And it's not a hard skill to learn, but it is something that you have to do in order to, be able to do it effectively over time.
Yeah, and it helps them build confidence at the same time tackling that stuff because they've had practice at it. They've been around, the peers that are actually doing it, and so it helps them build the confidence within themselves. So, yes, I can do this. I can be the same as Tyler. I can be the same as Victor, and the confidence help them. It also helps them, work together as a team and to help, get some of that stuff done. But
Right.
The confidence factor is one of the main things that I think Kevin has been able to get out of DeMolay, the confidence in himself to, put his mind to something that he'll be able to do it.
Brothers, I wanted to ask you, as you're talking there, it occurs to me, and obviously you got good sons to begin with, but they're becoming DeMolay. Has it changed your relationship between you and he? And if it has, how does it change that relationship?
Well, I know kind of when I brought the boys up, I always, when ever since they were little young, or very young, of course, masonry doesn't stop at the lodge room door. You try to bring that home and try to instill that, with your family, especially if you have young sons. Being able to communicate back and forth effectively has been a big help. The trust factor is there whenever there's a problem that, needs to be talked about, whether it's in school or his personal life or anything like that. He has a confidence that, hey, there are ways to sit down and talk about certain things. There's not anything that has to be hidden. There's, he doesn't have to feel afraid to tell me certain things because that's some of the practices that we kind of teach in the lodge room as well as in DeMolay is, try to be open with each other, try to communicate effectively. And really, there's no reason to be afraid to, talk about anything. So I think the communication factor is being able to communicate has had great effect on it.
I think for me, you kind of have a shared experience because I've been a worshipful master, a presiding officer, in a couple of things, and so is he. And so there's been some you're almost able at some point to talk as peers on some things. Remember how we when you were presiding, this or that happened, and talking about committees and this and stuff. And it's something that is kind of unique in that we both have kind of had this same experience. And I think Mike has got some pretty significant shared experiences coming up with Tyler because he is coming in, I believe, as worshipful master here pretty soon. So
if elected.
If should tradition prevail. And actually, both Tyler and I will be worshipful masters together because I should be coming in as worshipful master at Guadalupe Lodge. He'll be over at Kingsbury Lodge. So we quite literally will be peers at some point.
Very good. Very good.
One of the things that I've heard, and maybe you guys can confirm or deny this. From what I understand, there's a very, very low percentage of DeMolays that go to Master Mason. Is that true? Or if it is, why do you think that is, or is it because like I said, I thought it was pretty unique that we had four, at least in our area, that went directly from DeMolay almost as soon as they could, went right into masonry. But from what I'm hearing, that the percentage is relatively low.
I don't know if I could say yes or no on that. I know several that I got another brand newly raised Master Mason that is prior to DeMolay, Brandon Emmons, that came from our chapter. We have Chipper Coleman. We have one of our newly initiated DeMolays within the last, I think, 2 months. His dad became he's working on becoming a Master Mason, and he is going to. He already asked Tyler. He said, when can I petition the lodge to be able to become a Mason?" And he's like, "So
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's the chapter. I'm not saying that it's the boys. I am saying that if they know what's there, they know what it. I see a lot of them moving up. I see more DeMolays becoming Master Masons or Masons, period. Let's put it that way. If they complete it, then I do see Boy Scouts. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. In the San Antonio chapter, we've been pretty fortunate that the ones that are there that become age eligible to become Masons, they have moved on to become Masons. Victor, for example, he's a member of our chapter. He went on to become a Master Mason. One of my sons is already a Master Mason. The other one, he's scheduled to get his fellowcraft degree later in June. And then we've got a couple of others that have joined, and they've already expressed interest in masonry. As soon as they become of age, they're already asking, what's the minimum age, that kind of thing. So I think personally, I think it's dependent on chapter to chapter, and to see, to kind of push that, or not really push it, but to open that door if they are interested, to let them know that opportunity is there if it is, and if they do express an interest in it, to kind of help guide them along, to help them, take that path. But also on the other side, to age out of DeMolay, it's 21 years old. The guys are going through school, they're starting their careers, and there's
Right.
a lot of things that could get in the way of that. I know we're kind of real fortunate with our little group here. I know Victor, he's College Station, but he's able to still kind of get through. He was still kind of able to get through his degrees before he went off to college. My son, he got his degrees as he was going through college, and he's still in college now. Kevin, or Colin, my younger one, he just started school this year, and so trying to kind of get him through is going to be a little bit of a challenge. So I think that might have some play into why some of them don't continue. But if we just kind of stick with them and guide them, and then help them any way that we can, if they're interested, just got to help keep those doors open, so whenever they're ready to walk through it, it's open and ready for them.
Yeah, and I think there's a thing where, because I know both of you guys, and I know Jeff Messer was going to be the fourth one on, and he wasn't able to make it. But I know that you two, at least, you guys are heavily involved, obviously, with DeMolay, but you are also heavily involved in masonry in general, and I could see where they would see that example and then want to be a part of that. So it very well could be that the reason there's such success down here is because you've got good DeMolay dads that are positive about masonry, as opposed to, you get into some areas and it's just, Masonry is dying and, complaining about the lodge and this and that, and that could be one of the things that's turning some of these younger men away, that maybe they enjoy DeMolay and then they're like, well, I don't, now I'm going to join Masonry. And all it sounds like is a bunch of complaining guys who all they see is that it's a dying organization. So just knowing you guys that you're, positive and upbeat about, being involved and enjoy it and everything like that. So I could see how that, maybe why there's seems to be a lot more success with the DeMolays going to Master Mason as opposed maybe to some other areas.
I also real quick think that it has a lot to do with how involved the sponsoring body, like we always had a Masonic Lodge for Stephen F. Austin. So we had New Braunfels Lodge, and now we have Kingsbury Lodge. But how involved the sponsoring body is with the chapter, because if the Masons don't show up and show support and say, guess what, guys, we are here. If y'all need anything, let us know. We're here to help. Show up at the fundraiser, show up at everything that you're doing to make that presence known. Then they don't even, the only Mason they know is a chapter dad, a chairman, maybe a couple board members, but they don't know the lodge. So they're not going to want to come back to that lodge because they don't know anybody there. And I think a lot of that is a deciding factor for when they're trying to figure out if they're going to Masonry or not.
Wow.
If they know the people in the lodge, if they know the people in the lodge, they're not walking in blind. If they don't know the people in the lodge, if they're just sitting there giving them the $500 a year to donate to the chapter to help with expenses of XYZ and go from there, then they might not want to go try to join that lodge. That they're going to go, they might talk to the advisor, the chairman, or somebody on the board that they know and say, hey, this ain't the lodge I want to join, but I do kind of think I want to, but like, we really haven't seen a bunch of people from here. So,
right.
and I hear that from time to time. I'm not saying that's any of the lodges that were sponsored by at any point, but it is something that I have heard that, that the generation that we're bringing into it now, a lot of them don't even want to order fast food at a restaurant. I got a daughter that won't go through the drive-through because like, it's like, I got to talk to someone.
Yeah.
Like, yes, that's part of life. But, if they don't know somebody and what's going on, then they're not going to want to go and pursue it. And so when you got the chapter, like with Rainbow, they have Eastern Star. Of course, the ladies are helping with the Rainbow Girls. But if they don't see a bunch of the Eastern Star ladies show up when they go to try to petition, they're going in there scared as can be because they don't know anybody except for two people that show up every now and then to a meeting. So I think that's a lot to do with if they're actually doing what they're doing or not as well. So.
Well, and Victor actually had a choice. I mean, my home lodge is actually Victory Lodge. I'm now out here in Guadalupe Lodge in Seguin. And so I asked him, I said, well, which lodge, would you want to actually be initiated in? And he chose Guadalupe Lodge because that was the lodge that he primarily would go to with all the events. There wasn't DeMolay out there, but that's the one that he would actually go to. He knew a lot of the guys. He used to cut the grass, and he knew the guys at Victory Lodge, but he actually knew, like, was actually kind of friends with the guys at Guadalupe Lodge. And so, I could totally see if a lodge is, kind of, we have a DeMolay chapter and they do their own thing and, whatever and stuff. But I could see, a lodge would be a little bit more successful in bringing in those DeMolays if they are involved. And I know Paul Canales down in Albert Pike DeMolay. I mean, he's constantly coming to the Scottish Rite, giving updates about them and encouraging, he's like, this is your DeMolay chapter. This, we're the sponsoring organization, reminds us all the time, like, you guys need to, be supportive of them. And we've had, I think Chip Coleman is actually from Albert Pike. Yeah.
Albert Pike, yes.
I think we've had a couple of DeMolays that have come out of Albert Pike and recently that have become Master Masons. So
talk about lifelong friends. That's one of Tyler's best friends.
I do have one thing. Did you guys get any pushback from, I know not your immediate family, but maybe extended family, about getting your son involved in a Masonic organization? Because I know I did. So I don't know if you guys had any kind of pushback about, like, why are you getting your sons involved in this kind of organization? I mean,
yeah, well, not really on our end. Kevin and Colin, they're both fifth generation
right.
Masons. And so they were like, well, how come it took so long? So kind of deal. So I told them that there's, had to wait till, they're at least 12 years old. But I do have, a few families where we would have somebody who was interested in joining the chapter. And then so we would invite him in, and even the parents to come in, talk to them about the organization, what it's about, what they'll be learning, what we'll be doing in the meetings, and even welcome them to the meetings if their son does ultimately decide to join the chapter, just to make sure everything is all out, ahead of time, and they know what to expect from the chapter and everything, and that all their questions are answered before, their son decides that they really do want to join. So I haven't really had a lot of pushback once we make, a little presentation to the parents and that kind of thing, that they're like, oh, well, yeah, this is going to be great for my son. And so automatically, they'll sign the petition and sign them up right then and there after we're done talking. But haven't really had a whole lot of really pushback on any of the parents after, give them an opportunity to talk to us a little bit beforehand.
My side, I didn't have any issue with Tyler because it was his grandma and his mom and his sister, which were all already in Eastern Star and Rainbow and all of that. Now, on my side of it, my dad, when I became a Mason, was not ecstatic that I became a Mason. We had to sit down and have a long discussion over that. But when it came to actual DeMolay or Rainbow or anything like that, after we had that conversation, he actually understood and kind of sees that it's not a satanic cult that we're worshiping the devil and killing goats and
I didn't get a lot. I got a little bit from somebody who was like, well, I watched a YouTube video and they said, you guys don't understand who you really serve until you get to this certain level and this and that. And I was like, I kind of know the guys at that level, and they're not, I wouldn't worry about those guys. So I got a little bit of a pushback, but it was kind of minor. But I've heard of some others that they get significant pressure from family members who just feel like this is evil and this is wrong and you shouldn't get your kids involved and how dare that kind of stuff. But I just wondering if you guys had gotten any kind of pushback.
Now, surprisingly enough, the most feedback that I've ever heard of was about joining the Masonic Lodge, not any of the youth organizations associated with it. So I'm not sure if that's just because they're not aware that they're out there, but joining the lodge is where a lot of the feedback that I hear of that they're no good, they worship weird things and they do weird things in their meetings. But as far as the youth organizations are concerned, I haven't heard much pushback, if any at all. And but I don't know if that's attributed to just they're not as well known as an actual the Freemason fraternity.
So I think to kind of wrap this up, one last thing I had. So how much more awesome were they as entered apprentices than your average entered? No, I mean, but I mean, in reality, did they did your son seem more prepared as coming into Masonry, having been in DeMolay and coming up? Because I know, at least for Victor, I mean, he already kind of understood protocol and how to carry yourself in a meeting, and I didn't really have to do a lot. I didn't have to really teach him a lot because he kind of understood a lot of that stuff. So, I mean, did you guys kind of notice the same thing?
Well, I know sitting in lodge, I know who's had experience in running meetings and being part of the leadership of a lodge versus people that are just thrown in there and they have no clue what they're doing. I know when, like Kevin, for example, he's a senior deacon now at Texas Lodge number 8, and he's tradition prevailing. He's going to be elected as one of the wardens next year, this coming month. But I know he was 100% prepared when he first went in and sat down on his first meeting. He knew to stand when called upon. He knew the proper times to talk. He knew how to address certain individuals, because he's heard us do that, and he caught on through over the years of like, okay, this guy has this title, this guy has that title. So he was pretty familiar with the protocol, and it's the same similar protocols that we have within the chapter meetings, is what we practice in the Blue Lodge. My younger son, when he became a Mason, it took him a little while to kind of like a failure to launch kind of thing. It did take him a little longer to get his entered apprentice work done. There wasn't really any rhyme or reason to it, I guess. It's just that he had other things that he was, more interested in, and I didn't want to push him. Right. We started practicing a little bit, and then he kind of got frustrated, so I backed off a little bit, type of thing. But I gave him enough space, and he says, "You know what? I'm ready. So let's go ahead and get this taken care of." And so, but when he goes into a lodge meeting, he was just like Kevin. He knew what to expect. He wasn't afraid to talk to the individuals that were there. He addressed everybody with all the practice that he had during public speaking in DeMolay. I mean, he was just like a fish in water. He took off, and he acted like he belonged. So, yeah, we're proud of both of them for what they've been able to accomplish.
So kind of like the second born over there, we got is kind of where Tyler was at the same time. He was 18. He was living at home, but as a fresh out of high school student, he had other priorities, mainly video gaming, from what I could tell. With his instructor living in the same house, I'd go, "You want to go over work?" And he would go, "In a minute."
Yeah.
And so it took him about, I think it was 8 or 9 months, something like that, in order for him to. And I told him, I said, "It's up to you. Like, I can't force you to do the work you have to do. You have to want to do it." Yeah. And once we got through the EA, he stepped up and did exactly what he needed to do, and he got through his fellow crafting masters. And going into the lodge, I was fortunate enough. I was his senior deacon at his entered apprentice. I conferred his fellow craft, and I had fun at his master's degree. So we'll kind of leave it at that. But I don't think he's heard me that angry in my life, but it was a good time. So anyways, he finally figured it out, and he got onto it and realized that, why isn't he pushing me? Like, and I finally told him, I said, "It's not me to push you in a masonry. Like, this is, you asked, this is what you wanted to do. I can't make you do what you don't want to do. So if you don't want to do it, you need to let the lodge know, because it's not me. I'm just here to help for whatever I can." And he buckled down and did it, and he got through it, did great. And like Jason was saying earlier, if tradition prevails, he'll be going into the East this coming up here. So, that's where it's at. And, very proud of him. Couldn't be more proud of him. He made it all the way this far. And if you ask him on a good day, he's scared to death. But, it has its moments, and I told him, the lodge is there to back you. You have your past masters, you have everybody to help you, and you know how to do this. You've done it before, running your DeMolay chapter, and not only that, you ran the state of Texas as state master counselor. So it's not like you don't know what you're doing. You need to just buckle down and do it. So you got it done. And so, as far as I can tell, he seems to be excited about it, but I think he has his moments of, oh my God, what am I going to do type situation.
Right.
But as far as DeMolay goes with it, I think it did give him the wonderful foundation of knowing how to run a meeting and how to speak in public and how to address what needs to be addressed. He had one this year already, that he had to talk with for his upcoming officers. If tradition prevails, would have moved up a chair, and it wasn't looking like that was going to be the case. And he sat down with him, and it's one of my best friends, and it would be like Teddy telling Teddy or his uncle. It was his uncle, and he said, I don't know if you want to do it or not. And he says, I'm glad you asked, because I need a year off. And that takes courage and everything that DeMolay taught him through all of this to be able to stand up and go, I see an issue, I address the issue, and it actually helped the other person out because they have issues that they're possibly struggling with in life to be able to do what they got to do. So, it takes a lot to ask somebody, and he did, and he did great. And I think if it wasn't for DeMolay giving him that courage to talk to people, let alone family or close relatives, he wouldn't have been able to do that. If he was a master mason working up the line, and he had to go talk to somebody and say, hey, guess what? I don't know if that would have happened or not. That's
right. Well, I have to give credit to actually the Alcifar Highlanders for Victor, because Victor got through pretty quickly. Victor was initiated in December and then turned in his master proficiency by that next June. So he went pretty quick. And part of the reason why he went pretty quick was he wanted to be an official Alcifar Highlander before he left for college. And he was leaving for college in the summer, not in the fall. So the reason why was because he had been going to the Highlanders. So the Highlanders are a unit of Alcifar Shriners. And they used to teach bagpipes and all that kind of stuff. And Victor would go with me just about every Wednesday. And they were so welcoming and glad that he was there. We're always friendly with him. They came out to his when he got his Order Chevalier. They came out and supported him and everything. So before he left for Texas A&M, his goal was to be an official Shriner and a Alcifar Highlander. So he wanted to get through those. He wanted to be a Mason, but he wanted to get through those degrees and get that proficiency done before he left for college. So, again, it's back to your point about the sponsoring or an organization supporting these DeMolays, that it solidified in his mind as to why he wanted to be a Mason and part of this organization and everything, and it actually pushed him to get through the degrees, learn the proficiency. We would work on it every single day, and everything. So
I think this episode that you're doing tonight, I think is great. The more the more awareness that we have of DeMolay that we can put out there, the better. So I just hope that other lodges, other brethren, other lodges are able to see this and to say, hey, DeMolay is a great organization, and it's actually, a pipeline for membership. If there's a lodge that's struggling or it has, declining membership, they're always thinking, how can we get more members in? Well, if you help support your local DeMolay chapter, or heck, even open one yourself and sponsor one, that's an avenue of new potential members that you can get into your lodge. So no, I thank you, Brad, and Chris, and for hosting this tonight, and hopefully, we'll be able to get more exposure out there because of it, and yeah, I just really thank you guys for this opportunity.
Well, and also on a side note, that I know we're all down here in South Texas, between San Antonio and New Braunfels and Kingsbury and all that, but we need to make sure that they know that we're in Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth,
worldwide.
Worldwide. DeMolay International is worldwide, so it's not just for South Texas. It is not just this area. It is worldwide, and there is a chapter near you. So, and if there isn't, you need to open one because, in my opinion, it's needed. It helps structure the boys to where they got to be to become the future generation that we want in our country, not just what we have. So, the 7 principles that they teach are wonderful.
Well, to your point, Mike, my lodge up here in Arkansas just passed our Arkansas State Master Counselor to the degree of fellowcraft about 2 weeks ago. So
awesome.
Great.
So it does feed into Masonry.
Yeah. Everywhere.
Everywhere.
All right. So, like I said, this is a long-term project. So I will see you guys May 31st, 2031. So
yeah, put it on your calendar, Chris.
make sure you put that on your calendar. So, all right. Well, thank you guys. And we're going to take a short break, and then we will be back with the DeMolays. Well, welcome back, everybody. We've talked with the DeMolay dads, and now we actually have the DeMolays on. So, guys, welcome to the show. Appreciate you guys coming on and talking with us. What we'd like to do is we'll start with you guys each introducing yourselves, and Brother Triggs, we'll start with you.
All right. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to talk about DeMolay and its many benefits. My name is Kevin Triggs. I am 20 years old. I am a DeMolay member of 8 years, twice past master counselor, and the current senior counselor at San Antonio chapter. Right now, I'm the senior deacon of Texas Lodge number 8 and the junior deacon of DeMolay Lodge number 199. As for appendant bodies, I am very busy. I'm with the Order of the Eastern Star, Texas chapter number 835, and I'm also in the York Rite with San Antonio chapter and council and Lano Commandery.
What are you're in school right now, or are you working?
Yes, I am. I'm at UTSA. I'm in my 3rd year, so I'm a junior, studying mechanical engineering. And as it is summer right now, about to start a internship at a mechanical engineering firm. I'm very excited for it.
Thank you.
Very good.
Cool. Brother Copenhagen?
All right. Thank you. I want to say thank you to Brother Triggs, Brother Reichenberg, Brother Williams, and Brother Kohanke for having us on here. It's an awesome thing to kind of talk about DeMolay and stuff like that. My name is Tyler Copenhaver. I am a senior DeMolay right now. I'm 23 years old, turned 24 in August. I am a 6-time past master counselor, 3 for Albert Pike chapter, 3 for Stephen of Austin chapter. I am a past state master counselor as well of the Texas DeMolay Association. I am currently a senior warden at Kingsbury Lodge number 887. And then, as you pointed out earlier, Brother Reichenberg, should I be elected worshipful master this coming June. As well, I am also in the Order of the Eastern Star, 2-time past patron of Lockhart chapter number 210. I am working at Bluebonnet Ford. I am a porter over there, so I move all the cars, get to drive around, some cool stuff. But yeah, that's my introduction.
And finally, Brother Reichenberg. Let's hear from you.
Howdy, Victor Reichenberg. I am a member of DeMolay. I was a past master counselor of San Antonio chapter. I'm now a master mason at Guadalupe Lodge, member of the York Rite, the Shriners, and then I'm an Outspar Highlander. I'm a member of the High 12 as of recent. I've joined the Eastern Star, and I am out at Guadalupe Lodge. Studying geography at Texas A&M, and I'm an Army contract.
Nice. You're also a member of the Scottish Rite.
That
There's always
More
one.
importantly, he's going to Texas A&M. I want to make
Uh,
sure everybody
I
knows
mean,
that.
that's the most important one.
hook 'em horns, hook 'em horns. That's all I'm going to say.
Got a rivalry in here.
Not much of a rivalry if we're talking football, but
Horns down. There
We'll
we go.
see. We'll see.
All right. So guys, I think the first question is going to be, first off, how did you get, we know your dad's talked about this already, but I want to hear from your perspective, what really got you interested in DeMolay to begin with?
Who wants to start first? I guess I will.
And this is a conversation, so you guys jump in
Yeah.
and talk. So whoever wants to go first.
Well, honestly, I was initiated when I was 12 years old, and as my father said, I was a very shy young man. So truthfully, I was just kind of asked to be. I at that time I had no idea what DeMolay was until it was brought to me very gently, because I was already very busy with the marching band. I was a freshman in high school at that point. Just in my little shell, and it was kind of just a way to try and get me out there, get to see more, have more friends, see what's out there. After I was initiated, I was one of the first 5 of the reestablishing members of San Antonio chapter of DeMolay. And all of them have since aged out, and I'm the last one there. And it really has been just a great opportunity.
How I got into DeMolay is it's pretty much just copy and paste from what Mike said. I started going to events when I was a little on the younger side. I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I had been around it my whole life. I had been the professional chair helper for so many Eastern Star installations, all that stuff. So it was just kind of ingrained into me at that point. So I really started getting more into DeMolay whenever I had met some of my grandma's friends, and so their sons were in it, and so it kind of had a trickle down effect. I was like, "Oh, hey, they're really cool. I want to be like them," and so that's what kind of set me on the journey. I joined at Albert Pike in San Antonio downtown, and then meeting every Monday, driving to San Antonio, not dissonant at all. But it kind of got a little bit much. So whenever that I heard Stephen of Austin was coming down to New Braunfels, I was like, I got a chapter in New Braunfels now. Cool. So I dual membership with them, and I was one of the reviving 2, kind of like Brother Triggs over there, for Stephen of Austin chapter. So we kind of built that chapter up in there, and it's now in Kingsbury, so we're hoping to grow a little bit more.
My story could not be more similar to Brother Triggs. I mean, I was in the marching band, very quiet, not very confident kid. My dad kind of guided me into it. I didn't come from a Masonic family per se, because he joined kind of late in life, but it was a good chance to join, and I learned a lot from it.
So what did you guys feel like what was the primary thing you think you got from being a part of DeMolay?
This is a big one. Probably the largest thing, like the largest takeaway I could say from DeMolay is confidence, 100%. It's one of the big things. Anytime I speak in front of people, anytime I present anything about DeMolay, the first thing I say is I am the exact opposite of what I was 8 years ago. Before joining DeMolay, barely had any friends. I kind of stayed on video games. That was my only outlet. But since I was introduced, I've sprung open, and
It's just really confidence in public speaking, and I couldn't thank DeMolay enough.
So the biggest thing that I am going to take away from DeMolay, and I tell this to everyone, and don't get me wrong, confidence is one of the bigger things that I take away from it. It's friendship. Mike said it earlier, but Brother Reichenberg, you know Christian Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of my best friends ever. I talk to him on a daily basis, no matter what. I mean, like he's stayed over at my house a lot, and we're just super close. So I take friendship from DeMolay with every fiber of my being. That's the thing I take away from it. So
I think the big thing for me again was like public speaking and confidence. Absolutely. I could not have been worse at that when I started. I think that first meeting as master counselor was really terrible. But then as we went on and as I got more meetings in, and was able to like get more practice in, I got a lot better at it. And in a lot of ways, I still struggle, but I'm so much better at it than I would have been because there's no other organization that I was in or thing that I was a part of that taught me that skill.
You know, Tyler, the interesting thing about what you were saying about friendship, we in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of talk in Masonry about the epidemic of loneliness in young men in particular. And a lot of it has to do with because there's so much social interaction that goes on online as opposed to in person. And, you know, and one of those big, at least recent years, was obviously the pandemic from 6 years ago, where you three all were sent home and not allowed to see classmates, not allowed to see friends, and so they're finding that is one of the things that is a lot of young men are having a lot of trouble making new friends and really forming real connections with other guys their age. And so to hear you say that one of the big things that you got out of DeMolay was actual friendships, I think it's huge. And I think it's one of those things that, you know, probably needs to be talked about a lot more, that get these boys out of, I know you guys all three are gamers, and believe me, I enjoy video games as well. But you spend too much time in that virtual world, it does something to you. So, you know, having those real interactions, I think I think it's huge. And it was interesting for you to actually to bring up something like that, because it's something that we've talked about in Masonry, is that it's a place where men can actually find real connections.
yeah, I mean, going on with that, like our fourth um our fourth preceptor can I mean, I know you, Jason, and or Kevin and Victor know this. Comradeship. It's comradeship. That's one of the, like, in the ceremony of light, whenever you're doing the candle lighting and walking around, there's one part in it that trumps everything to me, and in my opinion, it's better verbiage wise than the flower talk. It's about lighting that candle and having it light into someone else and then someone else, and starting that chain reaction and just making new friends. And I mean, like I said, my best friends are from DeMolay. I've got all the guys from Albert Pike chapter that I was a part of, that I was a member with. I've got all the guys from Stephen F. Austin who I was a member with as well over there, and it's lifelong.
So I've got a question for you guys, and it's a little bit tougher. You've all now gone on to join a Masonic lodge and become Master Masons. And I want to know from each of you, what did you hope to get out of Masonry, and are you getting it?
That is a great question. Yeah.
Okay.
What I loved about Masonry, that it's for me, it felt like just another step forward. going through DeMolay, I felt like was the first step, and that's, I believe, what the biggest takeaway is, that going into Masonry, it just felt like another day with just different friends. They happen to be a little bit older than I am, being initiated when I was 18. It just seemed like just a new place to hang out and make new friends. I know I returned my proficiency. I was initiated September of 22, and then my proficiency was, my master's proficiency was returned very, very early July of 23. And I was just trying to move forward as fast as I can, learn as much as I can. It was just like my eyes have been opened up.
So for me, Mike always told me, and I know this is true for everyone. You get in what you put out, or you get out what you put into it. There you go. That's the right word. But I've always just thought of, Masonry as just like, kind of like Brother Trigg said, as just another group of guys. My lodge is a very country, close knit lodge, and so for me, it's really important that I have that relationship with all of my brothers. I mean, there's not one of those guys that I can't call if I'm ever in a pinch, to help me out, and it's just it's helped me become a better person of who I am. Um, that's what Masonry has taught me, is just it gives me the tools to become the better person that I want to be for, should it happen in the future, wife, kids, and all that kind of stuff. That's what I want to do. So to be able to have that and have an organization that brings that to the forefront of its teachings is just what I want out of it, and it's been awesome to join.
I think what I wanted out of it, there's two things. One of them I definitely haven't achieved yet because of something Tyler said, where you get out of it what you put in. I have been not as involved as I could be because I'm 4.5 hours away from a home lodge, so it can be a little bit hard to be involved. But I was looking for like a brotherhood, right? Camaraderie. And I'll get that eventually once I'm, not as busy 4.5 hours away. But the other thing I was looking forward to was I'm into the same thing my dad's into, which is like esoteric, philosophical stuff. And I feel like I've gotten a lot of that from like joining the Scottish Rite and things like that. So I've definitely gotten that aspect of it, and I'm just waiting until I can be more involved to get that, brotherhood and camaraderie.
It's interesting that seems to be the focus for all three of you, and that thankfully you're getting it. Um, there was a time when Masonry was a lot more populated than it is today. I remember my lodge had, Chris, how many did we have at our peak? 360 guys.
360, 70 guys, yeah.
And being a new Mason, it was tough to break into a group of friends, So you tended to kind of hang out with the guys that were initiated at the same time you were.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we've kind of streamlined and lost a lot of members, it's easier to walk into the building and sit down at a table with a 20-year-old and an 80-year-old as a 60-year-old and feel like they're my brothers, regardless of age. I don't even see age anymore. And I think that's an evolution and kind of a positive thing that has happened over the last 25 or 30 years as the membership numbers have decreased. I think we've become more close-knit as a group, and I'm glad to hear you guys verify that. So
Yes.
that's cool.
Yeah, it's I'd like to think as Masonry is the big equalizer. It doesn't matter if you've been in here for 50 plus years or if you were raised a week ago. We're all the same. We all have the same opportunities to learn and learn from each other through camaraderie.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and everybody has something to bring to the table. I mean, you
Exactly.
guys have experiences that we need to learn from too. Just vice versa is true also. But there's a lot of technical advancements that are happening these days that you guys are a lot more familiar with and savvy in than we are, and we need to learn that stuff from you.
All right,
I've got
not
can
me. I know it all.
Yeah, whatever, Reichenberg.
Go ahead, Chris.
First of all, congratulations, brothers, for becoming new Masons. It's really important, and that kind of goes into my question. Brad kind of exactly asked the question I was going to ask originally, but and that's why I dislike him so much. But anyway, what I want to know is, after coming into Masonry, you haven't been Masons very long, but has there been anything that has, I guess, to borrow a phrase, strikingly impressed you since you've been made a Master Mason? And, we talk about all the positives and all the goods and the brotherhood and the fellowship and the friendships, but there are some things that come around sometimes that aren't necessarily so good. Have you come up upon any of those? And what do you think of the future of Freemasonry is, in your opinion, in your eyes?
Well, in my short time in Masonry, I don't think I could say a bad word about any brother I've met. Everyone has been lovely. It's been wonderful. It's really have been one of the greatest experiences I've ever had. Me being only 20 years old, I can't really say that I really honestly couldn't. Everything's been peachy. Everything's been great.
Just wait.
I hope it's that way.
Don't poison them yet, Jason.
Well, you guys are
exposed. They haven't been exposed to Grand Lodge politics yet.
Not yet.
You guys are very lucky that you've got good examples to ahead of you in your fathers, and I hope everything goes the same as what you just defined, Kevin.
Well, and to be honest, the two lodges that I know that they're a part of, Texas 8 in particular, and Kingsbury. I know Kingsbury pretty well, and those are great lodges. And I, coming in as master at Guadalupe Lodge, I'm actually looking forward to Tyler and I basically serving together in the same district. I mean, we're both part of 35B. And so, I mean, I'm not surprised that they have not, I don't know, Tyler may speak here in just a minute. He may say something, bad about something, but knowing the history, at least in the last few years, I'm not surprised that so far he has not really had to experience anything. Whenever you get human beings involved in anything, there's something is going to go south at some point. I mean, it's just the nature of how things go. But anyway, Tyler, go ahead, Tyler. I didn't mean to speak over top of you. But
You're here, Brother Reichenberg, and I'm gonna kind of have to say the same thing as Brother Triggs there. I really haven't had to have and I haven't really had any major bad experiences with Masonry. Yes, there's been some grievances and small, like, minuscule things that in the grand scheme of things don't matter. But it's one of those things of we're there to work. And sometimes it can get, discussions can get heated and that kind of thing, but we're there for each other. And so with my lodge in particular, I'm going to apologize to Brother Jason there. I haven't been out to Guadalupe as much as I would like to. I haven't been out to, a lot of the other lodges. But for my lodge in particular, we're kind of blessed with a beautiful cohesion. And it's really nice to see that the lodges in sorry, there was a fly here. So the lodges in my district, at least, are able to come to work together and build up the district as a whole. It's very, very great to see, and strengthens my hope for Masonry in the future. So that's kind of what I've taken from the good and the bad, per se.
I haven't really run into anything bad in general.
Wait a minute. Your father's sitting here. You can say it if you need. We want you to be totally true and honest.
You know what? Maybe some lodges could use some updating of their like archaic systems, which I think my dad has done a really good job of updating spreadsheets and things like that. Uh, so I mean,
Yeah.
maybe that I guess, but for the most part, no. I mean, everything's been great. Um, I thought it'd be a little bit weird, hanging out with older people. Only 20, but it actually hasn't been that bad. A lot of people are really nice and like there's like a common, bond between everybody. Something I thought wasn't going to go very well, but actually did was, I said that you get out what you put into it. And I haven't been able to put in that much yet, but people still care a lot about me and have put a lot of work towards me. Like I needed help doing a silent auction for my outfit because I'm in the band at A&M, and I had like so many items come in from people, just Masons that wanted to help out, and it was like one of the most successful silent auctions we've ever had because y'all were just so willing to help out.
Hmm. Well, you're doubly blessed there, Victor. When I moved to Arkansas, the two groups that I reached out to were the former students up here of A&M and the Masons. And I immediately found two groups of friends within weeks of having moved here. So, um, yeah, that's great. So for you guys that are in officer positions now, you've been Masons for a couple years, and Tyler, you're getting ready to be Worshipful Master.
Yes, sir.
You guys, do you feel like you were rushed into these positions of responsibility, or are you, because of your experience at DeMolay, are you more comfortable with it?
I
Brother
think
Triggs. Oh,
my
sorry.
bad. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, do you mind if I take the lead on this one for a second?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So for me, going into Kingsbury Lodge, um, I wasn't rushed, and I say that because I had the option. I had the option to wait or to go up, and so I felt I was not necessarily ready, but that I had been prepared. And so with that, I mean, I started out as a pro temming the Tyler position, and then to junior deacon and so on and so forth. So I've been, you know, here in Lodge for coming up on 6 years now, as a quote unquote officer, floor officers, and now it's my second year as a line officer. But I don't feel I've been rushed at all. I feel like I've actually been kind of more pushed to better myself for those roles through my brethren. Um, it's been it's been a good journey so far for me in particular. Um, but I mean, like I said, I haven't felt rushed at all.
I'd honestly think Tyler said it perfectly. If anything, a lot of my fellow brothers would say, "Hey, you're very busy with school and things. Why don't you slow down?" But no, I was the one pushing, saying, "No, I'd like to help out anywhere I can. I'd like to do what I can, where I can, and when you'll allow me." So, if anything, they were trying to say, hold on, put the brakes a little bit, but
Yeah.
no, I wouldn't allow it.
Well, it's always something we worry about, trying because there's such a lull in new membership, and there's such a resistance to recycling old past masters through the chairs again, that one of the concerns we always have is are we pushing these guys through the chairs too quickly?
Yep.
Are they feeling intimidated? Are they feeling pushed? Are they going to get burnt out? That's
Yes.
another big scare. So,
The burnout, I have I will say this with all due respect to the ladies in my Lockhart OES chapter. I have felt a little bit of burnout at points. It was kind of going through, and I was worthy associate patron in my first installation at my OES chapter, and then I was worthy patron, and then I was associate patron, and then I was worthy patron. So it kind of just flip flopped and flip flopped. I was like, hold on, I gotta take a break. Gotta take like a year off because I was also state master counselor during my first worthy patron term, so it was pulling double duty a lot. So I get what you're saying, and at times, yes, there have been a little bit of points where I'm like, okay, got to take a step back for a second. But other than that, I mean, it's as far as the lodge goes, I have not been rushed at all.
Well, I
So,
think
okay.
your experiences in DeMolay have prepared you guys well, and I gotta say it's really refreshing to talk to you guys. Kind of renews my faith in the fraternity.
Right. Yeah. I did have a question about, so you guys are obviously young Master Masons. So for your non-Mason friends, how do they view Masonry if they find out that you're a Master Mason, that that you're part of this organization? Um, Victor's already smirking, but because I know some of the stories that he's told me. But so generally, what does your generation think of Masonry? Not that you can't speak for an entire generation, but your peers, right? What are they when they hear that you're a Mason? What are their reaction to that?
If I could
So
start,
you go ahead, brother.
I I've only had two of my friends, and one of them was my girlfriend, ever not be outwardly skeptical towards it. Uh, I had one friend whose dad was a master mason, and so they thought it was kind of cool. And then my girlfriend, her grandfather was a master mason, so she has no problem with it. But almost all of my friends say I'm in two cults, A&M and Freemasonry. Um,
Well, the
and
first one for sure.
yeah, A&M's more of a cult, I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of weird where like everyone seems to be skeptical of it, but then they see my character, so it's a little strange. Where it's like they'll kind of bounce back and forth on it of like what they think about it. I remember being held up on the wall once in my dorm. I was a fish. You can only step on two tiles, right? And one of my upperclassmen came up just yelling down the hallway like, "Fish Reichenberg, are you a Freemason?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And then he was like, "Where's the treasure? Where's the treasure?" And then there was like five people surrounding me in the hallway asking me where the treasure was, and I just like refused to answer. So it's definitely a little strange, but I don't think anyone's thought of me differently.
Hmm.
I will say this. My friends like to joke with me about it. So my friends know what it's done for me. And even my girlfriend who's, you know, we've only been dating like a month and a half, but she's very receptive to it. She's come into my if tradition prevails, come into my installation. But all my friends are like, "Oh, you're going to your cult meeting." I'm like, "Yeah." And at this point, they've said it so much, I've kind of just been like, "Yeah, I'm going." And I'll make jokes back with them, but they know what it is and they know what it's done for my life. That they've seen me grow through it. Um, Obviously, my DeMolay friends all over the state of Texas. Obviously, whenever I talk to them, they're like, "Oh, you're going to a lodge meeting, cool." But it's a reaction that's few and far between in my friend group. Um, they just like to make jokes, so it's kind of just one of those things of, haha, and then I gotta explain it like, hey, it's not a cult, so it's a weird thing.
I'd like to say something that's a little bit different than these two. A lot of my friends and even most strangers, because I sometimes wear Masonic regalia. I have a belt that I wear and sometimes one or two rings. But it's mainly out of curiosity, not really malicious intent. That they'll always ask like genuine questions. And even friends that I've had for like at least 5 to 10 years, I don't openly say, "Hey, I'm going to a lodgement," or "Hey, I'm a Freemason." They'll usually find out like in passing, and then they'll just start asking genuine questions. I know at least about three of my friends have been genuinely considering joining Masonry because of it, is because I've been so upfront about it, and I don't outwardly show it. It's they come to me and they ask the genuine questions. But yeah, really, including like I said, strangers, they'll see me and they'll be like, "Hey, you're really young. I didn't know masonry could go that young." They're used to the average age of a Freemason, and they see me and he's like, "Hey, there's something up here." So they'll come with me. Like, just it's more pure curiosity than anything, and I really enjoy talking about it. It's one of my highlights. Some of my favorite stories I'll tell is from UTSA. I'll wear the same regalia, and I'll be studying in a classroom or in a big study hall, and people will silently come up to me very timidly, saying, "Hey, I don't know what that symbol is. What is that?" And I'll get to trap them in a 30 to 45-minute conversation of the history. And it's my favorite thing. But they always end up, very respectful. They're always very respectful, and they always want to learn more. And it's my favorite thing.
So
I get the impression that the people in your age group are less inclined to believe the conspiracy theories than the older people.
Yes.
Is that the case?
Absolutely. Yes, I think that's the case. Yeah.
For me, it's been the case. Yes, sir.
Cool.
So when you guys were okay, so I know Kevin and I know Victor, you guys are considered senior DeMolays?
That's correct.
Or you still considered DeMolay?
I'm DeMolay, but there's junior and senior. Senior is, I believe, 18 and up, not 16 and up, and then junior is below 16. If I'm correct me if I'm wrong. But
yeah, and Tyler, you're not out, but you're not really considered part of DeMolay anymore. That correct?
So I'm a majority member. So I think what you're meaning by senior DeMolay is like you're aging out of it kind of thing, like on the older side, if that's right. What I'm. Yeah. So I am no longer technically a active member of DeMolay. What I am is a senior DeMolay. So senior DeMolay is someone who is aged out and is no longer participating in the chapter. But on the contrary, I am the one of the chapter advisors for Stephen of Austin.
Okay. So
that was going to be my next question. Are you guys interested in becoming chapter dads at some point?
Absolutely. I look forward. I'm 20 years old. I turned 21 in a month and a half, actually. And it's as soon as I age out and I won't be able to participate internally, I'll definitely be able to help with the administration, because I've been around it since I was 12 years old. So I know the inner workings and mechanisms. So.
For sure. And I was kind of, not necessarily, I'm going to say this with all due respect and love for Mike, I was roped into it a little bit. We had a whole bunch of, DeMolays that were coming up, and we needed more advisors and that kind of thing whenever I aged out. And so I was like, yeah, sure, I would love to be an advisor. But Mike goes, you got to wait like at least 2 months. I was like, cool, that's fine. So I got my majority during my state master counselor term. So, right after my state master counselor term. So my term ended, I got my majority, and then in September. Yeah, in November I became a chapter advisor for Stephen of Austin chapter. It has been amazing. I love being able to help with the ritual and all that kind of stuff for the younger guys. It's kind of been really fulfilling for my life to know that I'm kind of helping shape the younger generation and, show them the right way to do things and how to conduct a chapter meeting and that kind of stuff. And so that's kind of been where I've stood on that. And I mean, it's helpful for the chapter. It's helpful for me personally to know what I'm doing matters and all that kind of stuff.
I would definitely be interested in it once I'm able to settle down in some place where I know what I'm doing next. But the rest of my life is kind of a little bit up in the air right now, because once I graduate, I gotta get sent somewhere. I don't know where. Maybe Alaska.
It'll be cold.
Alaska's nice.
My point of the question was just a preface to when you guys were active DeMolays. Like I'm talking about when you guys were in middle school and high school and you're fully involved and all that kind of stuff. How much interaction or how much recruiting were you able to do with your classmates at school? I mean, and if you did mention it, I mean, were they interested, or did they because I know, and I'm not trying to speak on behalf of Victor, but I remember him saying that he would mention it, and then he had a couple of his friends that would ask his parents, and then the parents were they were just like, I don't know anything about this, like they wouldn't even let them come and visit. So what was y'all's experience?
I'll go ahead and get that started. So for me, my experience was just I didn't really get the opportunity to not necessarily recruit, but like advertise it in my school. New Braunfels ISD had a very like tight window or tight circle of who they let come into their schools. So I was never really able to get kind of that like big exposure into the school, but I was able to kind of talk to some of my friends. None of them really seemed interested, but the um with the help of Mike, being the chapter advisor and helping out with that kind of stuff, a lot of the people who, a lot of the Masons and their sons and their grandsons and that kind of stuff was super awesome to kind of help build up Stephen F. Austin and kind of get that ball rolling. Because after Stephen F. Austin came in, that's where my recruitment kind of focus was. Um, and it was an interesting time to have a lot of the people join because it was right before COVID and it was at the peak, and then it was just nothing. So it was a little weird, but it was beneficial for the chapter as well.
I'd honestly say the exact same thing that Tyler said. Especially nowadays, there's different extracurricular activities. I was in band, so trying to convince my other bandmates who already stayed about 3 or 4 times a day after school, trying to say, hey, why not fill the last day that you have with something different? It was a hard sell. Same thing with other friends in football or choir or theater arts. No, the most benefit we had with getting new members was actually through our sponsoring bodies. We're still sponsored by the Al-Safar Shrine. A lot of our members are sons and grandchildren of Shriners.
Yeah, I was pretty disheartened from like trying to convince people to come out and see what it's all about because every time I tried, they would be interested, but it was always the parents. They would always say like, no, 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 no. Like that's definitely a cult. So I tried for a while. I tried pretty hard, but it didn't work out like I thought. But yeah, most of the recruitment I see that we get is from like people whose parents were Masons. It's really hard to get people to join who weren't that.
So
Yeah.
one of the things I did mention with the dads was now they're saying in this area they haven't experienced this, but overall, there's a sense that there's very, very few DeMolays that actually move to Master Mason. Do you guys, what do you guys think? What do you guys think of that? I mean, do you think sometimes DeMolays maybe do get burnt out and then not move up, or perhaps maybe it is just it's has a lot to do with the sponsoring organization.
It is the sponsoring organization for the most part. Now, I have seen DeMolays go through DeMolay and then take like a 2 or 3 years off and then come back to us, or come back to join. And it's been, it's awesome to see. But honestly, in the state of Texas, from what I have seen as, um, state master counselor and all that stuff, a lot of the DeMolays are becoming Masons. They all have that passion to be a part of a Masonic body, and it's wonderful to see. It's fantastic. But going back to what kind of Mike said about it, it's a lot of the sponsoring bodies. It just depends on how involved they are. So I mean, with New Braunfels and when we were there, they were super involved and helped as much as they could. They let us use their lodge for Masonic breakfasts, which I know Brother Reichenberg has been to. and all that kind of stuff. So it just depends.
I agree wholeheartedly. It really is the appendant the sponsoring bodies that really push the word out through the DeMolays. I'm very fortunate that we meet in a lodge room. You know, we meet with at the lodge room at the Alsfar Shrine. It's really nice. It's a wonderful place, and it really is just normalizing the word of Freemasonry. And I'm very happy to say that, at least in our chapter, about 75 to 80% of our members do end up becoming Master Masons. So we're very fortunate that we haven't had that problem of burnout or anything like that.
Good.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing because I come from the same lodge. I mean, I didn't see much of like the disdain and like people not joining because we had a lot of people who did join. So it really just depends on how you manage the lodge, how how you introduce people to it. In our case, I think it went really well.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting because I don't think I honestly I don't that this is probably for me been one of the more eye-opening things that have come out of this conversation is how important it is of the sponsoring body of that DeMolay chapter. And no, I mean I think it is if somebody is watching this and they're in a lodge that happens to be sponsoring a DeMolay that you know what, if you really want to help out your lodge, then you need to go and take a look at what you're doing with your DeMolay organization. And are are you treating them as just a tenant and yeah, they're there, they use the building and make sure that they get their rent, and or are you really seeing them as a partner in Freemasonry and as potentially members to actually come in and join your organization and help secure its future in the long run. I think that's really really interesting. I'm glad we're able to talk about it. Well, we're kind of coming towards the end of the our time here. Brad and Chris, you have anything else that you want to ask before we get some final thoughts?
I don't. I'm glad to hear from these guys. They did a great job of expanding the questions and articulating their points, and it was pretty refreshing to watch from my perspective. And I'm glad we got to see it. Congratulations, guys! Good job.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm going to echo what Chris said.
Okay.
Nice.
And it's okay. So for the DeMolays, if you guys get any final thoughts before we close out?
I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity for us to talk about DeMolay. It's very refreshing to talk to people on the interweb. It's usually person to person, very slow moving. So getting the word out there, it's really nice. I really appreciate what you're doing here. I look forward to seeing it.
I mean, Brother Craig's kind of nailed it on the head. It's been awesome to kind of talk to a broader scope of people about this organization that means so much in all three of our lives. And I hope I don't speak out of turn for speaking for y'all, but I mean this organization has impacted all of us so much, and I really appreciate y'all taking the time out of y'all's day to bring us on to the show, and it's been really thought-provoking with your questions, and it's been awesome.
Yeah, DeMolay has done well for me, and I'm glad I've gotten to speak on it and add my input into it.
Well, like I said before, this is intended to be a long-term project. So let's see, we'll see you guys May 31st, 2031. And we'll see how you guys' Masonic careers are going, and I'm also really interested to see how y'all's professional careers are going, and because I fully expect all three of you guys to be successful not only in Masonry but in life as well. Well, thank you guys for joining us on this special episode of the Masonic Shelf. We will be back pretty soon with one of our regular episodes. So, as Brad Kohanke would say, keep reading, brethren.